Hey, I'm Zac Maloy.
Hello guys, I'm Steven from the Jackie Boys,
And this is Grammy Pro Songwriter Week.
I'm a songwriter and producer. Been doing it for about 6 years professionally. Blessed and great. I feel great to be a part of the Grammy Academy, and I'm just here doing some cool stuff with Zac Maloy.
I was in a band in a previous life called the Nixons, and that sort of laid the groundwork for everything I do now. I started writing with bands in the mid-2000s and now write with anyone who will have me.
For me, it was about, I guess, 6 years ago. I was with my brother, and he was like, "You're a horrible songwriter." And I was like, "No, I'm not." So I basically, I took that and I started studying different bands and artists on YouTube and online and buying CDs and buying Michael Jackson and Prince CDs and find out who was the writers behind it and just really learned the craft of songwriting. It even went all the way back to, the Motown days and what started that with Berry Gordy. My first manager was a Motown manager. So, that inspired me. And, I just was like, I think I can write songs.
What was the first song you wrote? Do you remember?
The first song was really horrible. I'm not going to tell you the title of that,
I'm going to tell you about the first one I wrote, so you should.
Okay.
You're not going to say the
title? The first song I wrote was called "Will You Marry Me?" And my manager said, "This is horrible." So it was.
But what you were saying, because every time we write a song that's remotely about weddings, we just automatically think this is going to be in every wedding from here on out
exactly.
for history. I think
it was a good sync. I did it went wrong, but it was my first song. It wasn't good. I feel like it didn't have that commercial anything to it, but it was a learning experience and it got me into the business.
Yeah. So I was in a band, as I mentioned before. And in college, we started by playing frat parties, sorority parties, again, wherever we could. I mean, we literally set up in a pizza parlor once. So we played wherever. At practice one day, me and the guitar player decided, let's try to write something, and then slowly infuse like an original. And I literally put on a pair of headphones, and I could hear in the distance opera music. And so I wrote down, I hear the opera in my headphones. I hear the something blah, blah, blah. Da-da-da-da-da-da, I see the writing on the wall. It was awful, is equally as awful as "Will You Marry Me?" Is that what it's called? "Will You Marry Me?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But man, the cool thing is that from that, me and my guitar player were like, "Oh, we can do this. We can play a replacement song and a U2 song, and also then say, hey, here's one we wrote." So for me, it was sort of in this band of brothers, which was a rock and roll band. Figuring out that we can write a song.
Awesome. Wow.
I think that the point at which everything changed, sort of the lens changed for me as an artist is, and you're still an artist, so you can speak to this too, but on our third album, the label looked at us and said, we don't hear a single, flew me to LA. I worked with Marty Fredrickson for the first time, and I literally drew in my journal his studio.
Wow.
And octagonal shaped desks, speakers here, Pro Tools, and I came home and I bought everything.
Wow.
So that, for me, there were a couple clairvoyant moments where it was like, you can write a song with your bros, you can also sit in a studio and write songs that maybe someday Carrie Underwood will cut or whatever. I've been lucky enough with Steven to we're developing an artist together. We've also written just write a song and pitch it. But I think the cool thing about what we're doing is we're working with another great young writer-producer named Sammy Mitchell. And the three of us come from such different worlds. Steven kind of comes from, as he talked about, not just urban, but also, Latin music.
Pop,
that whole world. Yeah. I again, based on what I just said, I come from sweaty rock clubs and tour bus with 8, stinky dudes in it. And so working with him, it's one of my favorite things is working with people that are completely different, because we just bring different things to the table.
Of course. And I would say the same thing. And working with Zac was my first session in Nashville. So for me, it was an honor working with you because you had so many backgrounds and you dug so deep in the rock, and then you can do the pop and the country. And I appreciate it. That's one thing I like about co-writing is because you get to literally sit back and just become awe of someone's art, So for me, I was like, man, this is amazing. And I love knowing people's background and story, where they come from, what they achieved, their losses, their wins. So I don't know. To me, it's a bonding moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's really just the simple cliche of two heads are better than one. Is for me, co-writing is I can sit and write a song. My first cut my first big cut was a song on the first Daughtry album that I really wrote myself, and then they changed some stuff, and so I've been on both sides of it, where you got to be there all alone, doing everything, and I know you have too.
Oh yeah.
But there's just nothing really like riffing off each other.
Exactly.
You know, that like if you're, you know, we've been lucky to have some great titles that have come into his head, my head, and then immediately someone that can see that, like Steven and Sammy, the artists we're working with, Brian West, they grab it, and that's a sign of real chemistry. And I think chemistry is a big deal. I mean, we've both been in sessions where it's 2:30 and you're just wanting it to be over. You know, you can't quite finish, you can't get the bridge, whatever. It is all about chemistry and finding people that you work well with.
And I've been in LA where the co-writing is like, hey, I have a hook, but the writer left to go home to get pizza. Can you come in and finish the verse? And it's totally different than in Nashville, you know? So, each genre has its own different way how they approach things when it comes to co-writing too. You know, like I said, I got one of the songs I wrote called Eeny Meeny. I don't know if I told you the story, but they were like, okay, Sean Kingston wrote part of the hook, but he's on a tour right now. So we need you to finish the verse and the other part of the hook. I was like, so like the post? It's like, yes, but then Bieber's going to come in and write the bridge. So I was like, this is a weird co-write, but it worked out and it all came together. So it just depends.
And so do you do writing? Like I've sometimes gotten like tracks and you load them up in my Pro Tools then write. Do you do that still?
Oh yeah, all the time.
You do?
Sometimes I'll, if it's for a certain project and the track is greenlit and they hit us up, hey, we need a smash for this, a hook or a verse. Of course, always.
It is different in every genre, like Steven mentioned. I mean, in Nashville, there's a very pure sort of like, there are three of us in the room. We're each going to split this song equally. Exactly. It's going to be all about the vibe in the room. Craig Wiseman, who I was lucky enough to sort of have as a bit of a mentor when I first moved to Nashville, his process is very much, he said, that the last time you came in and you brought those titles, that's okay. But we're not doing that. We're going to go fishing. And if we catch something today, cool. If we don't, we're going to have a good day fishing. And, he doesn't really care necessarily. He's had 25 number one songs, so he doesn't have to care. Yeah. For I think us, we want to come in prepared and ready. Yeah. And I got a folder on my laptop that says May 2016, and it's got 10 ideas already in it, And I know you do too.
Of course, yeah.
So you have to sort of feel the room. You walk in and okay, Craig Wiseman, we're fishing today, but with, I got flown up to LA to work with Three Doors Down, and they were sort of at the end of the writing process. They were sort of brain dead. I had to have something, so I had to say, yo, here's a title.
Yeah.
What do you think? And we ran with it, so it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, with me, it all depends. Sometimes I come in with the title, and then that leads to the story of where it could go. I mean, I like, sometimes coming in on a hook melody where I don't have any. Sometimes I'm just so like, oh my gosh, I don't have any lyrics that come to my mind. So it's all about the melody. I think it's all about having that dual kind of approach to the song. Whether if you're not kicking butt on the lyrics, kick butt on the melodies. If you're not kicking butt on the melodies, kick butt on the lyrics.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that Steven makes. That like, here's an example just of a song we just wrote. There's a song that we wrote with Brian West, this artist I mentioned, and Sammy Mitchell, called Heartbreak for Sale. And Heartbreak for Sale was just this idea that I had in my head that dude gets dumped and he's going to sit out in his front lawn with all her stuff and sell it. And so immediately the guys were like, yes, this is cool. I can see the video. I know, we're going to invite Low Cash over and the Cadillac 3. I'm going to call Jaron when we shoot the video to come over and make an appearance. So it was really cool because immediately it just started. I mean, there was a very clear idea. But then on the flip side, there are days that we've written and we get down to it and we're like, we still don't have a hook. We still don't have the title, but we know that it's another song I'm thinking of. It's called Maybe Meant to Be. That wasn't the title when we walked in. That was just this concept of, maybe this will happen, maybe it won't. Maybe it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So I mean, it kind of works all different ways, even with the same dudes. I mean, we've written probably 20 songs together, and I think they probably all were slightly different.
Yeah. And it's okay to take a break. If you're not feeling it, if you're not feeling the vibe, you can take a little chill break or let the song rest. I mean, I think we've all done that before. Like, just, okay, I'm not mentally in the right space. Let me come back to this tomorrow. Let me revisit it, then to force something. Because sometimes when you force it, it doesn't work. But I've been blessed enough with this guy that we don't have to force any songs.
There's a great story that Tom Douglas has told me about, and everyone kind of knows the story of House That Built Me. Tom is someone that was sort of a mentor to me also when I moved to town 7 years ago. Like, he told me the bank to go to, the dry cleaners, the school for my kids, and I just did everything Tom Douglas said. But the House That Built Me was written over the course of like a long time. I mean, the story goes that they were together at Sundance Film Festival, and over breakfast, he and Alan Shamblin talked about the idea. Oh, this is the house, not that we built, but that built me. Or maybe they didn't even have that. I don't know the exact story, but 6 months later they got together, 3 months later they got together, then another few months later they got together to finish the song. Wow. And House That Built Me, some people say, the great ones just come as if, divine intervention. And we've had those. I've had those. The first single from my band, the Nixons, all came between, my house and the rehearsal space for my band. Mm-hmm. All. Wow. Like in 15 minutes. But House That Built Me came in 6 months, and House That Built Me is one of the most beautiful things in popular country music. So, again, it goes back to that. It happens all different ways. Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to Tom Douglas. Tom, I came here. I always joke that my first two co-writes in Nashville were Carrie Underwood, and the next day was Tom Douglas, and that's not really fair. And I don't write with them back to back to back every day, But the cool thing about Tom as a songwriter that I immediately discovered was just the way he uses words. So for me personally, I'm always going to gravitate to those songs. I mean, I'll just reference another great song called In Color by Jamie Johnson. It's this idea, I don't know if you know the song, but it's, Grandpa, what's this picture? It's black and white. It's not real clear. I mean, that almost really shouldn't have worked as a song. I mean, what? He's talking to his grandpa? I don't understand. He says, yeah, that's me. I was 11. But when he says the hook, you should have seen it in color, you just kind of melt, Same with Tom. I mean, I'll be sitting in a room with him, and he'll just say, I don't think this is any good, but what do you think of this? And he'll read 6 lines of the most amazing sort of poetry ever. The concept in those situations is finding ways to then shape it, and we do that with each other. We do that with other writers too. That sometimes you have to sort of parse through the forest for the tree, or whatever the forest and the trees saying is. So Tom's definitely one for me that I really appreciate, and really sort of almost microscope watch him how he uses words, and it's just to turn a phrase so eloquently is hard, and not everyone's Tom Douglas, but I think you and I probably pick up on that, with people like that are just all about the words. And then of course with Steven, honestly with you, I would say you're as good of a melody, writer as ever. We were together this morning, kind of meeting and then talking a little bit of music, and after he left, me and Sammy kind of put together a little idea to show him later. And I got to the chorus and I sang the chorus and I was like, but this isn't the melody. Steven will find the melody for this chorus. So it's finding great people that like Tom with word, great people with like Steven who also writes great lyrics, but always brings it with the melody. So
I appreciate that. And for me, this is weird, but mine is the guy that dissed my first song that I actually thought was amazing. Mickey Stevenson. He wrote It Takes Two, Dancing in the Street, Pride and Joy. Motown guy. I mean, he was literally hard on me when it comes to melodies, lyrics. He was hey, it's not ready, it's not good. And the most fascinating thing was the first story he told me about him getting his songs pitched. He sung for Berry Gordy, and Berry was like, "This is horrible. Don't write, don't sing." And he said it's kind of what I learned, but I can't sing. But I literally focused, took the time to do my research, fall in love with the passion of songwriting, and I became a songwriter.
It's what separates songwriters from normal human beings. It's kind of that we're just like dumb enough to keep going. I mean, my wife tells me all the time that it's just Zac's just stayed in it and just never thought I'm going to do anything else. It's probably a lot deeper than that, but for me, it's just, I mean, the odds of getting a cut on a major label album are astronomical, really. I think of a song that I had on a Carrie Underwood album. They talked about how they had listened to like over 700 songs or written, or I mean, that's crazy, So to have had a few, I feel blessed, and you started off by saying happy and blessed, and I honestly do. And again, for me, what the difference between a normal human being and a songwriter is just that we're just blind to the possibility, blind to the reality that it's tough, because on that day where you write that awesome song, on the day that Tom and Alan laid down the demo for House That Built Me, I just got to imagine they hugged or high-fived or something, so yeah, I think that's it. It's being able to put up with or be blinders on enough for that moment when you do actually get that song. And we've, like we just mentioned this song Heartbreak for Sale. When we finished that song, I was like, oh, hell yeah. I mean, this is like, this is it's, I was trying not to say the word magic, but I mean, it really does have a little bit of that.